All right, we're live now. Welcome to the Sarcasm and Liberty live stream, everyone. And tonight we are going to be doing a mental health stream. Okay, the person that said they're going to be coming, she said she'll be on in a second.
Awesome.
So we've only done one of these before, and I wanted to try to do another one again. I'm hoping to make this a regular thing. I was having some troubles. You know, if anybody is curious, you can go check out my birthday stream from Wednesday. Watch like the first 15 minutes. You can get an update as to like why I've been off for so long. So I'm hoping next week we're going to get back into a regular rhythm of things. So what I wanted to focus on tonight, I'm trying to keep every week that we do a mental health stream having kind of a general theme or topic. So tonight, one that I even created like my own support group for it. And then I actually, the whole reason I started doing like the vet to vet thing that I do on Wednesday nights, like the veteran group I do, was because of that support group. They wanted me to come in and be able to talk about that stuff. And it was about using like different forms of creativity as a coping mechanism for like anxiety or depression or PTSD or what have you. And I really feel it's a very valid thing. Like a lot of the people I've talked to, when I first started my support group online, there was a lot of people with like that were writing or painting, and a lot of them hadn't done it for a long time. And once they started doing it again, they started realizing how much they missed it and how much they loved doing it, and how much it actually helped them. My main philosophy on it is there's like when you kind of engage in a creative outlet, it occupies part of your brain that is wondering and thinking about other things and like letting you be depressed or letting you be anxious or triggering your PTSD or what have you. It kind of occupies that. It takes up so much focus for you. Even things like for me, like playing video games does that for me too. It'll like pull my focus in. So it's something I encourage a lot of people to do, is find that creative outlet. And it can be a lot of things, from like, for me, it's writing. For some people, it's drawing. For one person I talked to, it was dog grooming. That was her thing. I was like, that's perfectly legitimate. One person, their creative outlet was basketball, because they were always trying to like find different ways of like playing and like really like got into it, you know? And I was like, that's, you know, if you're being creative with it, that's what it is. So that's what I want to kind of focus on. And I got Madness and Chaos with me. Somebody else might be joining in a little bit. And this is the primary focus of discussion tonight. So first, I want to turn it over to you guys to, is there, Chaos, I'm going to start with you. Is there like a creative outlet you use regularly that kind of helps you deal with that kind of stuff?
As in me creating something?
It can be anything.
Unless you consider dank memes, I mean.
That works. That works. No, creating memes is a creative outlet, you know?
And even I don't even do that too much. I know my outlets for stress and depression relief tend to be video games, but.
Yeah, gaming.
That's what I use a lot too. I use a lot of gaming to help me to cope. Sorry. I'm catching up on eating right now.
I'm eating with a bag of chips.
Yeah, no, so that's something I actually use a lot. Like, especially with role-playing games, it kind of really pulls in my focus a lot. And that's something like creative outlets. Gaming tends to do the same thing. It kind of, you have to have this level of, you have to have, oh, Brandy's here. Hi.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I'm a little more technologically illiterate than I thought.
Is this your first live stream?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So, just to catch you up, we've been talking about how creative outlets can be used to kind of occupy that part in your brain that makes you worried or makes you get anxious and things like that. And so what I want to turn it over to everybody right now is to give everybody a chance to possibly like talk about anything they use, like creative outlets they have, whether it's writing or drawing or whatever have you, that you might use in your day-to-day life that helps you cope with any kind of mental health stuff. So you, Brandy, do you have anything?
I like to paint when I'm not married to my work. I never know when I'm going to get out at a decent time, so I don't paint as often as I used to. But when I do, I typically spend probably half to the majority of the day. So Mark has to go into the front room and see if I'm still alive, because but that kind of serves as my escape. So it lets me forget about all the horrible things in the world.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I do writing because I write comic books, and then sometimes I just write to write. That always helps me a lot because I find, especially with writing, here's one of the things I usually typically talk about when it comes to creativity. When you're creating something, like when it comes to things like anxiety and depression, and especially stress, like you have this lack of control in your life. Like that can become maddening because you get stressed out. You don't have the control that you feel like you really need to have over your emotions, over your life that you want. When you're creating something, you have this level of control that you don't typically have. It's like for me with writing, you know, I can create my own world. I can affect everything that happens in that world is up to me. You know, it gives me this sense of control that I don't typically have with a lot of my mental health stuff, like with my anxiety and my depression and some of my PTSD stuff. And that's one of the reasons I feel like it's actually really beneficial, because it gives you a sense of control. Like with what Kayas was saying, she uses video games, and that's one of the things I use too, is because I do feel like there's, especially with video games, there's a sense of control that you have. You're controlling a character. You know, you get to control this kind of world in a way, and I think that's something that actually helps a lot of people. Is it gives them back this kind of sense of control that they feel like they might be missing from their life. No. You guys feel free to jump in. I don't want to take up the whole stream.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's definitely especially when it comes to video games, because it's like you're forging your own world. You decide what happens next. You decide where you go, what you do, what your character looks like, what they act like.
Yep.
Anything.
No,
I mean,
that depends per game. In some games, you cannot design your own character.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like role-playing games, is because you get to kind of, you know, even the old ones, you get to even name your character at least, you know. It's your world.
There are RPGs where you cannot choose your own character. It is basically
but I mean,
those do exist as well.
You typically get to decide what you're going to do. In most games, you get to decide. You have a control over something. You know, even like freaking like Mario, like the original Mario, you have control over the character. You know, you don't get to decide what he looks like or what his name is. But you have control over what he does.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you this sense of control that you don't typically have in your life.
Power.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's part of the thing that mental health can become pretty devastating, because with a lot of this stuff, it takes away your control of your life. Because, you know, for me with like generalized anxiety disorder, I don't have the control I wish I had over like my emotions and my worry and my stress that I want to have. But, you know, if I play a video game or if I'm writing, you know, it's all up to me. Everything is up to me. How the world is created, how things are affected, who does what, it's in my control. And that's one of the reasons I typically like try to throw myself into writing when I'm having like a particularly bad time, is it does give me a sense of control back. So I don't Madness, for you, because Brandy says painting, chaos, video games. For you, what's something that you typically kind of like a creative outlet you throw yourself into?
You there, Madness?
Madness?
Oh, Sometimes I'm a little bit stutter, but what I usually have is of video games, I have my comics, my manga, my anime, my movies, my TV series, my the stuff that I collect, the stuff that I read, my mythology, what I read on and shit like that. That was basically what I did when I was younger, and still does.
No.
Although less than I used to.
One of the things I remember when I had my I called it creativity versus anxiety, which is what I'm going to name this series because I want to do more of these where we focus on creativity. One of the problems I would say that was presented to me was she was like,
making characters is fun as well.
Making characters is always fun. I've heard of people like they go into an RPG and they'll spend like an hour just creating their character, and then they play for like 5 minutes and then they go to bed. But you know, like whatever like makes you feel happy, whatever makes you feel like you're having a good time, I feel like that's always good.
Well, not even for a video game. Ja, er zijn character met. Voor mijn own stories, I design my own characters.
And that's good stuff. Well, okay, and here's one of the hurdles a lot of people come with when we're talking about creative outlets.
It would help a lot.
Yeah, one of the hurdles people usually is they'll say I'm not good at anything, or here's a specific example of somebody she was like, I like writing, but I'm no good at it. And what I said to her was, does writing make you feel happy in the moment? She said yes.
Well, if that's the case, then who cares how good somebody might be at it? Because for all she knows, nobody else is going to be reading it. So who cares?
Precisely. That was my thing. Like for me, I always put my writings out there. I'm a comic book writer, so that's kind of part of my job. I have to put my writing out there. But I do write a lot of stuff just for myself too. But what I told her, I was like, enjoy the act of writing. Put it away when you're done. Write out on a piece of paper, write until you're feeling good, until you feel like you're accomplished. Then take it and put it in a drawer and don't read it. You know, just go throw it in the trash. Who cares what you wrote? I mean, if you're trying to create a world, maybe save it and like keep it for yourself and work on it. But if you're just enjoying the act of writing, just write and then just put it away somewhere. Don't read it. Don't even worry about what it says. You know, like it's the act of it. It's the act of creation. It's the act of painting or the act of drawing or the act of writing. That's what you want to focus on, not what your result is, not whether or not you think it's good. That's just going to cause you more stress. Like for me, I don't recommend everybody who wants to do writing to go out and push everything out into the world because, you know, for me, like my writing sometimes causes me stress and anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, I got to finish this before then. But you know, typically writing is very, I don't know, it's very mellowing for me. But I don't know. That's what I would always suggest to anybody. If you feel like you're not good at something, don't really worry about whether or not don't worry about the quality of what you're producing. Just worry about the act of it. If the act of writing, the act of painting, the act of whatever it is you're doing makes you feel happy, calms your anxiety, lessens your depression, does whatever it does for you, just do that. Focus on that. That's the important part, is creating something, not whether or not what you produce you feel is good enough. And that's part of like when I had that creativity versus anxiety support group, was creating an environment where people could share it, you know, and like it was like, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything. But typically people could post whatever and, you know, get some positive feedback that would make them feel good about what they were doing. And if somebody didn't think it was good, they just kept their mouth shut, you know, or got removed from the group. But, you know, that's something I should probably get that group going again, because it was actually really good for a lot of people. But I feel like that's the message I would want to get across. Like the two big points is that using creativity can really occupy that space in your brain where that makes you worry, that makes you stress. And then don't stress so much about whether or not what you're making is good. Focus on the process. So if you guys like, just feel free to jump in if you got anything you want to say too. So I'm kind of I'm like honestly a little spacey tonight, so I'm like I don't want to have to carry the whole stream.
Make money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just.
Crasher.
Oh, Lonnie's here.
Ah.
Hey, Lonnie.
What's up?
He was here for the last one too. Him and Madness. So, Lonnie, you were watching a little bit. I don't know how much you caught of it.
I caught a little bit of like whenever y'all go over y'all's creative outlets.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last.
Yeah, just to sum up what I've been talking about, like my 2 main points was using creativity can help occupy the space in your brain that makes you worry or makes you anxious or makes you depressed. And then not to worry so much about what you're producing, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Just focus on the creative process. If you're stressing out too much about it, just put it away after you're done. Just focus on the creative process. So for you, Lonnie, what's something that you engage in typically?
Well, I haven't played video games in a while, but lately it's been mostly like making memes, things like that. I know it's not necessarily like creative. Well, I guess it could be creative. I'll listen to like certain kind of like audiobooks or whatever that go over something. I kind of think about the kind of situation presented in them and how I would tackle that, like especially if I disagree with what's being said and things like that.
No, that's a great point, actually. Like for me, I typically listen to music when I write. So when I listen to music when I'm not writing, it kicks my brain into that. That's why I can't listen to music to fall asleep. It kicks my brain into creative mode. So just sitting there listening to music puts my brain in creative mode, and I'm thinking about stuff I want to write or I'm thinking about stuff I want to do. So you could just be laying in bed listening to something, and that can.
I have ADD that helps a lot with making up stories and shit like that.
For what, Madness?
Well, having ADD means going. So I just like, hey, you know what? Let's try to make stories out of them because then I put it at least to use.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Madness, you've sent me like a bunch of stuff before about like just kind of creative like ideas that you've had. So I mean, like I know that you have a thought process going along, whether or not you write it down as like a story or not.
Yeah, in the meantime, I already had a lot more.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. Yeah, no, if I was ever to show everybody like what my Google Documents looks like. I mean, it is so long. I've never counted how many different like things I have open because every time I have an idea, I open up a thing and I write it down. And then like even if I, sometimes I don't come back to it for like years. And then I'll come back to it and be like, oh, hey, I'll do something with this, But if I have an idea, I just write it down. Like I have I made a like Halloween like poem that is slowly being turned into a book. But it was like about a girl who has a monster living under her bed. And the whole twist on it was that the monster is actually scared of the girl, not the other way around. And then I had like this other one, and I've only like written like I think like 6 lines total, and it's been sitting there for like over a year now. I've just done nothing with it, but I know eventually I'm going to come back to it. But I had the idea, and I wrote it down, and just thinking about it and coming back to it every now and then. It's always kind of, I don't know. It's nice to see that, like I can go back and I can see my creative process. I can see ideas I had here and there. I always encourage people, like whenever you're in that mode, just go for it.
I don't know. I guess I've always thought of like funny thing was in high school, I actually used to write quite a bit. I probably have maybe 3 or 4 stories stuffed away in the bookshelf somewhere. And what's funny is every now and then, I started them when I was like 16 or 17 because I got bullied a lot. So that's literally all I did in my downtime was writing. And if anybody who I didn't like pissed me off, I would just kill a short little story and it made me feel better. And I grabbed one of the actual stories out that I was writing a while back. And anytime I did it, I would just be like, holy crap, I actually wrote it like that? That sucked. And I'd be sitting there spending about an hour and a half just rearranging everything. I'm like, okay, this sounds so much better. And I'm thinking, I'm never going to publish this anyway, so I don't know why on earth I'm doing this.
No, but you had fun while you were doing it, I bet, too.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it was all fiction stories, so none of it was true, but it was more of an escape, just because during the time that I probably spent the most time writing it, it was during high school. I was doing guard.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost her.
There's nothing new here.
Brandy, if you can hear us, we... Oh.
Might have moved into like a little different part of the house, something like that. You know?
Yeah, it happens.
How many times did we lost sarcasm on the stream?
Yeah, it happens to me all the time lately. I'm like, I want to get my computer fixed.
What, screen's going wild?
Yeah, you're there, Brandy? Oh.
Going wild, or?
You're kind of skipping out a little bit there. Oh, I think I see you now.
Okay, yeah, our router's stuffed behind the entertainment center, so that might be why.
Our router's in the basement for some reason. So, yeah, I know how you feel.
You might try adjusting the bandwidth a little bit.
Yeah, that might help. I'll have to look at that tomorrow.
Mine's like
I'm turning off the camera.
30 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of fucking problems with it. But this is absolute atrocious. What I don't want to fix here.
Madness has seen, though, where I've just, like, completely, like, just banished from the stream suddenly, and everybody's like, where the hell did he go? Like, it happens to me so much. I don't know what's going on.
We laughed so hard when it happened.
Yeah.
I literally just thought of this. I think I was reading about an interview Stephen King did with somebody several years back. I don't remember who it was. Yeah, he is. I couldn't remember who was interviewing him, but he was talking about the amount of time that he had spent writing all of his books, and the guy was asking him, what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't writing novels? And he said, I'd be in prison for killing so many people. And at first, the interviewer thought he was joking. He thought he was joking. He didn't think he was serious. And then, yes, and Stephen King kind of just sat there, and he was like, why are you laughing? I wasn't joking. And the interviewer was like, are you serious? And he said, yes, I love killing people in my stories. He said, I can't do anything else.
Yeah. No, I don't even slightly doubt it. Okay, for me, like, I mean, you should see some of the shit I write. Like, I would, like, typically, before I was put on medication to help curb it, I had a lot of nightmares, and one of the ways I started coping with that before I found out there was a medication that I actually help you stop having nightmares, is that I would write them. I would write them down, and then I would turn them into a whole story. Oh, I didn't hear you, Brandy. Nope, you might have some trouble.
Yeah.
But for me, that's how I kind of coped with my nightmares. Is I wrote them down, I turned them into a story. I have one I turned into like a 3-page story, and people read it and they're like, "Man, that's violent and fucked up. Like that's so weird." I'm like, "Yeah, that's like my typical dream I have pretty much every night." Like, it's kind of weird. Yeah, I know. I would agree, but that's what's going on in my head when I sleep, apparently. But it helped. It helped a lot. For me, like I can't even count. Like I posted it on my Sarcasm and Liberty Twitter. I posted it in like the Think Liberty family. Lonnie's probably seen it there sometimes. Where I post my Cynical Stew comic strips that I've written.
Maybe.
I don't do the artwork for it, but I have a bunch of different artists that work on it. But yeah, like that's my way of like getting my frustrations out of just the world, like how much I hate things. Like the first one I ever wrote was when I like still had like a really big prejudice against panhandlers from my time in the military. Because when I was on Fort Bragg, there were so many that were obviously scammers, not like people in legitimate need of help. So my very first one was making fun of that. So there's a lot of stuff like that, like it got my frustrations out. It got my anxieties out. I mean, I've poured, I wrote like this, and nobody's ever even seen this. Like, like this is something I wrote for myself, but like I have I'm claustrophobic, and like kind of this like I have this like anxiety of like not being able to move freely. So I wrote this whole like really kind of intense short story about somebody like waking up like on a table, restrained, not knowing where they're at, and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, it was even like frightening for me to go back and read it. I lost it. This is when I was in the Army. I don't have it anymore, but I mean, it was really intense and very like, even like for me to go back and read it, I was like, that's frightening. But like, it was a way for me to kind of cope with that when I was feeling it like really badly, you know, because I occasionally get that, like, I don't know, like just like if you ever watch, like watching some, like if you're claustrophobic and you watch something where somebody's in a really like enclosed situation, it raises your anxiety. So if you have any kind of like fears of something or
I'm
like
not claustrophobic, so I have no idea how that feels.
yeah. Okay. Has anybody seen
Lucky you then.
Has anybody seen the movie The Descent?
I
don't think so,
own
no.
the movie. I
I
haven't
think
watched
so.
it yet.
Well, it's like a monster movie, but it takes place in a cave. So the very beginning of it, they're crawling through this like really tight enclosed space. And they're barely wriggling their way through, and I'm just like sitting there like wincing and cringing because I'm like, oh my god, I would be freaking out in that situation. And I think my claustrophobia stems from like growing up. My parents, a lot of the vacations we took, we went to all these like different famous caves, and I think that's where my claustrophobia stemmed from because I fucking hated it. I never told my parents that because they'd probably feel bad, but no, like I have a really like I hate being in an enclosed space. It freaks me out, which is one of the reasons I've never liked being in, like living in an apartment.
What?
I'm glad I have a kind of a big open house now because if you know, like just having these small spaces, I feel so confined and it freaks me out. But you know, I've written things that have helped me kind of cope with that and get through that, and yeah. It's a lot of that kind of stuff that helps having an outlet. Like I've heard of people like painting their fears, you know, or drawing things that freak them out. Yeah. Or I knew a guy who he specifically like would draw like things he was afraid of, like dying. He would like personify his fears into a form and then draw them like being slaughtered. And that was his way of coping with them. And that was really cool. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to get a, you know, kind of use stuff like that to your advantage. Everybody has a creativity inside of them, whether you realize it or not. And for some people, the struggle can be even just figuring out what it is. But as I've said, like it can be as simple as just playing a video game. Your mind works in that same manner then. So, well, I want to hear from everybody else. So, like, what all you guys like? For anybody else who wants to chime in, though, some maybe experiences or specific like stressors or anxieties or things you've dealt with in like using a creative kind of fashion.
I can recall, when was this? 9th, 10th grade. We had a poetry slam thing going on in the library, and I was writing out like a couple of samples to see which one I wanted to do. And one of them, it was around Halloween time. And if I remember correctly, it was about a body decomposing somewhere in the woods. And I think my teacher saw it on my desk one day, and she sent me to the guidance counselor's office. And they called my parents.
That sucks. I have a brother who actually got expelled from school for writing stuff, you know, and they were like, "You're killing all these people," and he was like, "My friends wanted to be in the story." You know, he wrote like a horror story, and his friends like have me in there and kill me in the story. And he was like, "Okay." So he wrote his friends in the story, and they thought he was like writing some kind of like crazy psycho manifesto. It was just people don't really understand that kind of stuff. There's a bit, you know, like some people might think that way, but you know, for me, like shit, if some people saw the stuff I wrote in high school, you know, like they'd be terrified probably. I wrote some weird shit. I mean, I still write weird shit all the time. Like you guys probably would like. I mean, there are people who would be like weirded out by some of the horror stuff I write. And like I said, I write a lot of stuff just for myself. But
they just don't understand.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you have some comic book artists or movie makers are able to get away with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
No, I mean, no, go ahead.
What's that? Oh, all right.
No, you go ahead, Lonnie.
The thing I'm doing right now, 4 plants going, and 3 yellow cotton and 1 purple bell pepper. The purple bell pepper is small, but the 3 yellow, like I went from having like 1 per plant. Just taking care of, like trimming little things and trying to promote growth and that net of 22 peppers, all 3 plants. Not on all each, but like total among the 22. Like they're coming along.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. No, like I was saying before, there's a person I talked to, her creative outlet was grooming dogs. Like grooming them in special ways, like, you know, like coming up with like creative different ways of doing like special hairdo stuff for the dogs and things like that. She posted all these different pictures and stuff. And I'm like, you know, like that's legitimate. That's something, you know, you're thinking about it. You're trying to figure out ways, like you're engaging that part of your brain that makes you have to think in a creative way. Like, you know, problem solving is typically like, I feel like the other way of putting it would just be problem solving too. Like that's why like video games, I feel fall into that, because video games are problem solving. For me, writing is typically problem solving because I have to figure out how am I getting from here? How is this plot going to work? What is this character going to do? There's a lot of problem solving involved. And that's why I've even talked to somebody who like their outlet was just math. Just doing math problems was relaxing for them because they had to engage their brain. They had to think really hard. Yeah. But I mean, that's, you know, that's what worked for them. You know, it really,
whatever floats the boat.
Yeah. It really did it for them though, because they really had to think. Like the harder the math problem, the more soothing it was for them. I mean, there's a lot of like, but it's interesting though. You know, it's interesting.
I just think it's hilarious how we're talking about, you know, like writing different stories and stories. Like some people were, you know, brought to, they almost got in trouble over them, and like they're just, oh yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
no big deal. No big deal.
You know, math, we're all just like, oh, no, not math.
Yeah, but you don't get called into the guidance counselor's office over doing math problems.
True. That's true.
Well, it depends. What are you going to use with it?
I don't know. I got nothing.
Same people who use math to do certain things. Those do exist.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But, you know, I mean, the point I want to drive home with that is just, you know, there's not really a limit on, because a lot of people, when I talk about creativity, their mind goes to writing or drawing. And I'm like, no, it can be just about anything. As long as it really engages your brain, you have to think in a certain way. You have to problem solve. That's really what we're getting at here is it kind of, I don't like using the word distract, but it does distract you from what you're feeling at that time. That's giving you some stress or some anxiety or some problem. It helps pull your focus in on something. It helps really focus your mind more. And that's why it's such a good combatant and such a good coping mechanism for these kinds of things.
Well, yeah, it's better than sitting cornered in a room with a barrel of a gun in your mouth. That's for sure.
Yes, exactly. I mean, at my
Although I'm not that easily able to get a gun, so that will not work. I have the one more knives around me, or that was at my father's place. He left always the dangerous chemicals. He just left the ground floor doors where you can open those closet things, but in the kitchen. He always leave it in the down wall where kids can easily grab them. So if I was just going fucking nuts, I could just always grab it without problem when I was fucking 6-year-old. He wouldn't give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't have any guns. So I don't.
That's actually something a lot of people are surprised about.
I have no chance here.
Terrible boating accident.
Yeah. A lot of people, for me, are surprised that I actually don't have a gun in my household. I'm very pro-gun. I argue for guns all the time. There's not a specific reason I don't keep them in my house. I've just never bought a gun.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, they
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't. I only typically. I mean, if I had to point to a reason, it's probably just financial. But
Yeah, they can be expensive.
yes, they can.
And
Honestly, the only time in like the past, I think,
Keep it in here.
the only time in the past 10 years I've known my wife where we were legitimately like, we're gonna have to buy a gun, is the only time we were like for sure gonna buy a gun is if Hillary Clinton won presidency, because we were like, we might need to defend ourselves because shit's gonna go down then.
Well, I think around the time when the price of ammo was starting to go up, my boyfriend actually found a really good deal online. It was literally like less than 10 cents a round, and he managed to get like 1,000 of them. And right after he got it, I think it went up to like 20 cents a round, I think. I don't remember what the reason was, but whatever it was, I'm sure as hell glad we managed to get that before the price went back up, because if anything, if you do ever at some point, sorry, I'm cleaning up there while I'm trying to do this.
No, it's fine.
And if you ever at some point do want to buy a firearm and use it, like for target practice or anything, the ammo is what gets expensive.
Well, and it's not because people will look at you like a crazy person for stocking up on ammo when it's cheap. You know, like, oh, you're stocking up on ammo. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, it's inexpensive right now. It might go up later. Why wouldn't you stock up on it?
Yeah, exactly.
Stock up on anything when it's cheap.
Yeah, for just in case an apocalypse happens or invaders come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Better to have it and not need it
That
than
problem
to
what
need
we
it
have
and
here
not
in
have
the
it.
EU.
Well, and here's the thing too, though. Like for a lot of people, since we're on the gun topic, buying guns, like shooting guns, not necessarily buying. For some people, it is buying, but shooting different kinds of guns can actually be like extremely stress relieving for a lot of people.
That's
Yeah. I mean, for me, like
One.
when I was in the military, like shooting the M249, the machine gun, like was just, you know, you didn't have a care in the world then. It felt amazing. You felt like you had control over something. Like, you know, like where you pointed, you know, targets would go down.
Who you shot it at.
Yeah. You know, like if you want it, like you feel like you have this level of control though. Like it's pretty amazing. That's one of the reasons, like, you know, I feel like people going to a shooting range, it makes total sense to me. For one, I mean,
Some people go there to release aggression sometimes.
yeah, no, I mean, for
Exactly.
one, it's good to go to a shooting range just to keep up on your like accuracy and stuff and your familiarization with the weapon. But it can be a huge stress reliever. And anything, I feel like, you know, as long as you're not actively hurting somebody, you know, anything that's a stress reliever is not a bad thing. You know, if you're not hurting somebody by what you're doing, you're relieving your stress, or you're not, I would say if you're not hurting yourself, like don't abuse yourself either. But if you're not hurting anybody, including yourself, and it's relieving your stress, it's making you feel better, do it. Do that thing. You know, engage in things that help you feel better in life, because, you know, when it comes to anxiety and it comes to depression, it sucks. You know, like at my worst, when I was in Wisconsin, and the whole reason we came back to Indiana was because my wife was like, you are dying here. Like, we need to move you somewhere else. And like I could barely get out of bed. every day I felt horrible. I had so much, like, I just constantly felt like there was a knot in my chest. I could hardly breathe. I felt terrible. I was so depressed. I was so, like, had so much anxiety.
The environment does a lot as well with anxiety and that.
Yeah. And it was rough. I mean, that was the absolute worst I've ever felt in my life. And, you know, where I was at, I didn't have stress relievers. You know, I hadn't really gotten back into writing yet. The only thing that like really relieved my stress was just spending time with my wife and my daughter. And even then I had a hard time like throwing myself into that, because even when I would be there, it was hard for me to like take myself out of the anxiety, because it would still just be present all the time. Like I'd go for a walk with my wife and I would feel anxious the whole time, you know. It sucked.
Well, yeah, because it takes away your motivation to do everything, and when you are trying to do something that interests you, you don't feel like your heart's fully into it, because you have this weight on you saying, and it's putting you in a pretty dark place. Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah, exactly, precisely.
Either important.
Yep. And like, you just, even the good things in life, you feel like you can't enjoy them.
That's why I'm a fucking beer.
Yeah. And it sucks, you know. So if you find something to engage in that, you know, isn't hurting somebody, including yourself, do that thing. You know, if it's not dangerous, if it's not something, you know, like, it's something you can do in your home, it's something you can do on your own time, freely, whenever you feel like you like need to do that thing, you know. Help relieve your stress, you know. Like one of my big things, like right now, because like I've talked about, my wife got me the Super Nintendo like mini classic for my birthday, and lately my thing has been playing like different Nintendo games with my kids, and that's been like a huge stress reliever for me. It's just been so much fun. I've had an enjoyment seeing my kids have a good time, you know, like that's been huge for me. It's been great. So it doesn't have to be like, you know, when I talk about creative stuff, it does not have to be writing or drawing, you know. It's any kind of thing that really, really engages you, that really makes you feel good.
Well, another thing and another thing I've noticed, and I'm actually hoping they get more into this, is I've seen the increasing use of therapy animals, especially vets with PTSD. My stepdad tried to get one, but for reasons I can't remember, he ended up not getting one. But animals are also a very good method of treatment, which is why I'm hoping to see more of organizations like Wounded Warriors and everything. I'm not sure how the process works where they get the animals from the shelters and then they train them. I'm not sure how that works, but I definitely would like to see more of that.
For Wounded Warriors, they typically have dogs that they train, and then you go to like a specific location and you spend a few days there where they train, like they kind of oversee the process of you and the dog together, and you get time to spend time with the dog, bond with the dog, where they can kind of oversee the whole process, and then you get to take the dog with you. That's been my understanding for us, at least as far as like I think Wounded Warrior goes. But there are other things too, like there's equestrian therapy where you actually go to like a horse ranch, and like you brush a horse, you spend time with the horse, you feed the horse, you clean the horse's stable, you ride the horse after a while. You really get time to spend with this horse and bond with this horse, and you know,
like that here too for like people live in healthcare and shit like that. They have like petty
and like
farms or whatever.
I've never engaged in the equestrian therapy. It's been suggested to me, but I've actually looked into it before. And like,
what is the name equestrian, by the way?
I have no idea.
Because when I name, I think of the fourth generation of My Little Pony.
No, I have no idea. I have no idea there. But I've looked into it, and I've like read a lot of like veterans' accounts of it. I mean, it's really helped a lot of people. Like, you know, they spend time with these horses, and like whenever they go there, it's just like a whole different world for them, you know. And they ride that horse, and it's not just getting on a horse and riding it. It's like you're with your best friend almost for these people. You know, and it's really spending time, and it just, you know, for like weeks, you know, just spending a day with that horse makes them feel so much better. For me, like one of my big stress relievers is my kids. So if I go out with like mostly with my daughter because
kids a stress reliever.
exactly for me.
Yeah, the right people,
my kids
the
cause
right
me,
type of people can
you know,
help with stress and
my
depression.
my kids cause me all kinds of stress. But if I go spend the day with my daughter, we go see a movie together, we go hang out, we go like get lunch together, like that is like the greatest day, you know, like it just, you know, she's 7 years old and she has a lot of the same interests I do. She likes the last movie we went to go see was Rampage because she likes big monster movies now. So that's been our thing. So yeah, we go see these like cheesy monster movies. We have a good time. We go get some lunch. We just hang out, have like talk and stuff like that. And it's a huge stress reliever for me. It's always fun. I don't think I've had a day with her like that where I've just felt like crap. You know, it's kind of impossible for me to feel bad on those days. You know, typically when I'm starting to like kind of have those downturns, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to go spend a day with her and just, you know, I'm like kind of like, I feel like for me, like anybody who's like seen me post stuff about her can get a good feel for what my daughter's like. But she has like she has a huge heart. She has a very big innocence about her too. And you know, like the last day we spent together, we actually we spent like a whole half hour doing this because she saw a lady with a sign held up that she needed, like, you know, like, because we see it a lot in our city. We live in a big city. And this lady specifically was saying she needed like diapers and milk and stuff like that. So my daughter felt bad. We went to the grocery store. We spent like a half hour. We bought like $100 worth of groceries. And she actually like is taking money out of her allowance to help pay for it. Because she wanted to like help pay for this lady's stuff. And we bought like diapers and like powdered milk and like a 20-pound bag of rice and all this stuff, you know, like non-perishables mostly. You know, and this was all like, you know, she was going to the store like, well, we need to get this and we need to get this, you know, and like that was her thing, you know, and like I was so proud of her, and like the whole experience was just so like great for me, you know. I felt
yeah, you can typically tell when the person is somewhat more genuine when they're asking for something that's typically not for them. Yes,
it was obvious. She was everything she asked for was stuff she needed for kids. That's not something, you know. Nobody who's just out to like scam people is asking for diapers. That's not like a huge commodity, you know.
Well,
for people that don't have
chance
kids.
is very, very low to take back people for diapers.
And okay, like for me,
it's
like
not impossible, but it is very
it's not
unlikely.
possible. When I lived in Fort Bragg in North Carolina, there were so many panhandlers and so many obvious scammers all the time. It was so bad. It was so bad, and that put me off from it for so long. To this day, I don't give people money because of that like mistrust that I have. But I will give people food. I'm totally fine giving somebody food, and if they don't accept the food, it's obvious to me what they're out for.
That's not what they wanted. Yeah,
exactly. So I have no problem giving somebody food, though. If they graciously accept it, I feel like, okay, they needed that. And I feel fine. I move on. You know, I don't think I've ever posted on social media, too, about, like, when I've helped somebody. Because I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's just something I feel like it's fine to do. But, you know, like, for my daughter, though, like, I talk about that one specifically because that was all her. It makes me very proud. But, you know, that, like, for me, like, that day was amazing. You know, we went and saw a movie. We went to have lunch. You know, she saw somebody in need and wanted to help them, you know. And, like, that was, shit. Trying to think what day that was. I think, like, last week. Oh, that was Sunday. That was this past Sunday. I've been feeling great since then, you know. I've just been, like, I've been dwelling on that experience, you know, like dwelling on that day, you know, and I just, you know, from, like, whenever I've been feeling bad this past week, I just kind of like throw myself back into that day, and that's where, like, you know, one really good day can actually like last you a long time. If, you know, from that whole story, I feel like that'd be the point I'd want to drive home, is one really great day. You know, it's not just one day. It can be a month if you really like kind of, let yourself go back to it. Let yourself really enjoy that time that you had.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chaos, you said tell me about it. Do you have
I had to speak, didn't I?
No, it's fine. Yes, you've been quiet for a while, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
Real quick, we did have a question from chat I wanted to address.
Oh, yeah, I've been neglecting the chat, and everybody in the chat, I'm sorry.
That's sarcasm.
Yep.
Jesse, the cutie in chat, was asking, you said if you do something for stress relief, but it doesn't hurt other people, what if it only hurts you?
I'm not okay with that.
It's kind of different when someone's shooting heroin up into their arms.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily physically healthy for them.
Yes, it's the same with cutting. It's the same with self-medicating, things like that, where it can really, really hurt you. You're not actually making yourself. You're not making yourself better, to be honest. All you're doing is you're inflicting long-term damage. Cutting, all that does is create more psychological damage, and it creates a system of self-abuse. I've been in I have been, like last year when I had to have my surgery. Before then, I was physically hurting myself to try to distract myself from the pain. I was in so much pain, and I was like, and it might sound ridiculous to anybody else, but like my leg hurt so bad. I was like punching my leg as hard as I had bruises all up and down my leg, because that was the only thing I could think to do to like try to distract myself from the pain. Like it hurt so much. It didn't make any sense, but that's what I was doing. When I've been like at my lowest point, I remember I was shaving and I had the thought of just like cutting my head, just because like I thought like that would feel better than what I feel right now, and I do remember like going straight to my wife, and she took me to like the mental health ER at the VA, because she was like, you need to see somebody now. But like that wouldn't have helped me, like I might have felt something different, but like in the long term, doing like self-harm kind of creates a system of self-abuse. It can distract you from the pain, but what you kind of tend to do is you start to rely on that as a coping mechanism, and in the long term, you're just harming yourself more and more and more. And
the only thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The only thing I think self-harm is really about is control, because that person has, especially if they feel they don't have control over anything else, they can control how many pills they take, or they can control how many times they cut their arm, or how deep they go. That is assuming they feel they don't have control everywhere else. That is the one thing they can control. So that might be why they continue to go back to it. Yes,
exactly. And then Jesse says, the same person who asked the proposed question says, it makes me feel better. And I would say yes. In the moment, it will make you feel better. And if it didn't, there would be no reason to keep doing it. But I would suggest, if you are doing something that you can recognize is self-harm, immediately seek help. Go see somebody, talk about it, because what you're kind of doing is you're creating some long-term effects on your health, and I don't expect you to say what it is you're doing, but if you're doing something like if it's drugs, or if it's cutting, or if it's anything like that, you can be creating long-term health effects for yourself, damaging your body in ways that you feel good now, but down the road, like those it's so okay. Mental health is a consistent battle, and it sucks. There's no way around it. Like, you don't just cure your mental health, you cope with it. And that's why you got to find healthy ways to kind of cope with it that you can do long term. There are many things you can do that don't actually hurt yourself that will make you feel better. And it's about finding those things. So I would definitely advise, if you can recognize that it might be hurting yourself physically, talk to somebody, find a specialist, a professional to go seek help with, and be candid with them. You don't be scared. Be candid with them and say, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm doing to make myself feel better? Like, how do I get out of this cycle of self-abuse? And then what do I do to cope with this day to day? Don't go see a psychiatrist, see a psychologist. A psychiatrist is typically going to want to prescribe medication. A psychologist is more about dealing with it without medication. So go see a psychologist specifically. You don't need to dive right into medication. If you feel like that's your only way out, don't, medication's, yes, medication's not bad. I'm on medication. I'm not knocking medication, but, start with what you feel like you might be able to do in your own power. And that's kind of like, we have control over our lives more than what we even realize when it comes to mental health. And that's part of what a lot of mental health does is we get this loss of control. So part of, when you're kind of trying to find things to cope with, you need to find ways that you can gain control in your life again. So self-abuse is something that gives you a sense of control because you get to control that. But in the long term, it doesn't actually do you any better. Your stress, your anxiety, whatever it is you're dealing with is just going to keep coming back. And the longer you do it, the more negative effects you're creating. So definitely seek help for that. But for my wife, she's a mental health therapist and she does narrative therapy. And here's what I always encourage people from what I've talked with my wife about, and it's opened up some new ideas, is though a lot of and I've seen this with a lot of therapists I've seen before, is they will typically kind of focus on the problem. Don't focus too much on what's wrong. Start thinking about what's right. What are the good things in your life? What are the positives that you have every day? Because if you cannot find a single positive, you definitely need to seek help. But typically somebody can find something good. What are the things you are doing good to cope with your anxiety or your depression or what have you? What are the things that you're doing right in life? Find your wins. Don't focus on your losses. Find your wins. Find your good things. Find some positivity to ground yourself in your life. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to focus on. That's what's going to help you more than anything. And then find some things, experiment with some different ideas, whether try some writing, try some drawing. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be helpful. Try some video games, try just anything, look up, Google,
try reading comics, try watch movies.
Read some comic books, watch some movies, listen to some music, find things.
Especially comedies are always a good thing.
Yeah, comedies are good.
Laugh.
Anything, anything that can...
laughing is the best thing, in my opinion.
Laughing's great. I've actually, it's a quote I made before, and I've actually seen other people use it since, but I said, it wasn't in relation to mental health. It was when I was talking about physical pain, but I said a good laugh is better than a shot of morphine.
I'm allergic to morphine, so that is very true.
Yeah. But laughter is great. Anything that makes you laugh, it things that release endorphins in your brain, it helps.
Yeah.
Or go walk out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lonnie.
I find that the focus of what we've been talking about is finding things that are productive. No matter what they are, whether it's cooking or gardening or writing or whatever it is, something productive.
Yes.
And harming yourself is obviously counterproductive. And if there's a way that you can, whatever it is, if you can channel that into something productive, even if you just go and clean your house or whatever it is,
you will have accomplished something. Yeah.
Exactly. What
something you
Lonnie
take control over something.
Yes.
You're doing better than and it may take a few tries. You may fall into things, but the more you keep trying to stay productive in some sort of way, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to always be building something or cleaning something or whatever. But even sitting around watching TV or playing World of Warcraft or whatever it is more productive than you know than than causing harm to yourself for sure.
I've
And
also
it'll. Mm,
I've also thought of this might have more to do with. I remember you brought up before about how nothing can really get you out of bed in the morning. Like there's literally no motivation, and I've been meaning to do this. That maybe like whether it be like something you stick on the wall, like make a list of things, whether it be things you're thankful to have or things that you already have or people that you have in your life who make you happy. For example, I have 3 cats, so I would probably put all of their names on that list because those are probably the only friends I have. And I would put down, then even just put down your wife's name, your daughter's name, any pets you might have. I don't know if you have pets or not. And when you wake up in the morning, and that'll be the first thing you see. And those will be pretty much the things on that list will be, or hopefully in general, will be what gets somebody out of bed in the morning.
Is that, if you don't mind me asking, did you come up with that on your own, or have you heard that from like a therapist or somebody else, or?
I won't disclose how
No, you
I
don't
heard
have to
that.
disclose. I was just saying,
but
like, if you came up with it on your own, I've actually specifically heard that advice from therapists before. So, like, I was going to just say, if you came up with that on your own, like, that's pretty amazing.
it's just something I've been thinking of
Yes.
recently, and I've actually been
No, and
meaning to do it.
that's amazing advice
It
too.
doesn't
It's
have
and
to
then
be
that kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like,
something as well.
focus on your wins, focus on your positives in life. Think about the things that help kind of ground you in reality and help, like, I don't know, like, think about like the past month in your life. Pick out the things during that time, anything, no matter how minute, that made you feel good. And then, like Brandy said, write a list. Think about those things. Dwell on those things for a little bit. If it's something, like if it was an activity, go back to that activity. Does it make you feel the same way? Keep that in mind. If it was a person, keep that person in mind. Engage with them more. If it was something on the internet, go back to that. Like, when it comes to mental health, it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of work. But
It can be physically taxing.
yes, definitely. I mean, part of the reason I feel so tired all the time is just from like constantly feeling like I have to deal with all this stuff. But if you can put in the work and you can find those coping mechanisms, it will make your life so much easier. And you'll find like day to day is not as it's not as taxing as what it needs to be.
Yeah. What she suggested sounds similar to I don't know where I think it came from some motivational like Jim Rohn or somebody like that. But
sorry, Lonnie. I'm backing out for like 1 sec. I'll be right back. Keep going, man.
But it sounded similar to they talked about say like keeping a like say you have a goal of some sort, want to save up some money to buy a car or a motorcycle or whatever it is. You might keep a picture of that.
Yes.
You might make it your phone background or your desktop wallpaper or something like that. Just something to where you can see the thing that's keeping you on your goal. A house that you're saving, whatever it may be. It's just kind of a constant reminder.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good idea because a lot of the times, especially when you're saving up for something, since if you're not looking at it enough times during the day, sometimes you might lose sight as to what you're actually saving towards. And it also reminded me of the list that you can keep. Let it be the last thing you see before you go to bed and the first thing you see in the morning.
Right. Yeah. Or like some people suggest, if it's say if it's a financial thing, keeping it in your wallet,
Hmm.
to where whenever you go to buy something and you're like, well, if
Do I really need it that badly?
eat it, if I keep buying this, I won't be able to have this
Hmm.
cycle, this compute, whatever. But it sounded similar to that kind of thing, just like a goal of some sort, and like writing it down, putting it on your bathroom mirror, something like that. Just, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
Keeps you motivated.
Well, yeah, because that's what you're constantly thinking of. You're not thinking of the reasons why you can't,
Right.
whether it be saving up for that or as to why you can't move towards something. So yeah, that's I actually didn't really think some of that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. It sounded similar to what you had suggested.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the whole reason I wanted to do these streams. Just that one sentence you said, Brandy, is I didn't think of that before. I can't count how many times I've talked to people and I've heard that, or I've had to say that to somebody. Engaging in these kinds of discussions is really good because even if you feel like you're pretty seasoned in it, you're always going to hear things you've never thought before. And that's why I'm hoping to keep these kind of discussions going. Like hopefully weekly. My whole recent crisis seems to be passing, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get back into a regular routine here. So I'd like to do it. I do want to know real quick because I think I'm going to call the stream in probably like the next 10 minutes because I gotta go. Like I have 2 birthday parties to go to this weekend, so I'm like yeah.
I got a party tomorrow.
Yeah, I got one for my son's friend tomorrow and one for my daughter's friend on Sunday. So, I do want to know because I was doing these streams I was planning on doing these streams on Saturday, and we did this one on Friday. Is Friday a better night for everybody to do these streams, or would you rather do them on Saturday, or is there like a different day of the week we should try to focus on? What do you guys think?
It doesn't matter to me.
I'm a Monday to Friday kind of person when it comes to working, so
Okay.
weekend days might look a little bit better.
Chaos, you said Fridays are better for you, right?
It really depends for me. My weekends get so crazy sometimes.
Well, okay. So if I typically did them on Friday, though, I'll like Lonnie, Madness. What would you? Oh, Madness, you're pretty much available like all the time.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to get a job anyway, so hey, who the fuck cares?
What about you, Lonnie?
Really, I mean, with my job, I'm basically on 24-hour call, so I could be working, I might not be.
Okay. Hey, by the way, tell your wife happy birthday. I didn't get a chance to post that. I've been like completely off of Facebook, but tell her I said happy birthday.
Brittany, Josh says happy birthday. Josh says happy birthday.
You said you had 2 birthday parties to go to for your kids' friends?
Yep.
I couldn't even stand the birthday party in the burger joint that I was in for the 10 minutes I was picking up my food, so you are a trooper.
Oh, no, like I organize my kids' birthday party and pretty much run it. Their birthdays are a week apart, so we typically do like a joint one. And so we have like all kinds of people over, and like I typically like run the whole thing and like organize everything and get everything set up and stuff like that. Because my wife doesn't like doing it, so like for some reason I'm like, hey, it's not so bad. I like doing this, and I get everything planned out, and then the kids just go jump on the trampoline anyway, so they don't do anything I set up. But yeah, no, it's I don't always mind. I don't really mind birthday parties, but yeah.
So they're a day apart.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna see if anybody has. Well, I do want to just quick shout out to Jesse in the chat. Like I said, I posted in the chat my Twitter handle. If you feel like you need somebody to talk to, DM me on Twitter, or just follow me. I'll make sure send me a mess or like a shout out on Twitter so I can follow you back so you can DM me. But if you need somebody to talk to,
I exactly want to talk with you because there are things that I pretty much said that you would have no answer to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I will
Like
do what
if
I
someone
can.
comes with you about gender swear questions, I don't think you know what the fuck to do with them.
I'm not sure that if that's what he's dealing with, but like, if it's something I feel like I can't handle or I'm not sure about, I'll go talk to my wife. She's a professional. So, if you need somebody to talk to, like, immediately, though, hit me up. I'll do what I can. So, and that goes for everybody. Like, if I do what I can. Sometimes I miss out on some DMs here and there, but if you like ever feel, anybody watching now or in the future, if you do feel like you need to talk to somebody, let somebody know. Find somebody you can talk to, because it's very important to have a good support system. Find a good support system. If you are in a cycle of self-abuse, please seek some professional help, because that's only going to end bad for you. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else, because I know what that feels like.
If you can get professional help, because I was not able to, thanks to shit insurance, government, and bullshit like that.
Depending on where you live, hopefully. But if you can't,
sometimes you can find someone even online where you can just talk with perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. When I was at my worst, I just Googled like anxiety I put like anxiety into like a Facebook like search, and I found like this anxiety support group, and it like actually like eventually became like the whole freaking admin for the whole group eventually, because I was so active in it. But no, I mean, like, there's so much out there. Like, you got to search a little bit, but you can find it.
Well,
there's support out there.
It just happened, like with me. This is a random YouTuber I found, and saved my life, and talked with her, and it did really help me a lot more. I've stated that before on the previous live stream.
Yeah, no, and that's what's great. I mean, like, finding something that helps you, like anything that makes you feel better, that's not hurting yourself or somebody else.
Thanks to her, I'm doing fitness and shit like that. So and it helped me a lot more. Even just going out and just talk to people. When I was younger, I was really sure, man. And it's like, go fuck off. I don't want to talk. I just go somewhere. I prefer I'm just going to take some comics or books with me and read, and like don't talk to me. Now I'm a lot more like open.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's so many things you got to experiment a little bit. Find the thing that helps.
What I still found interesting that, like, I was 5, 6, at 8, shit like that. I was nowhere near anxiety. I talk with every fucking one.
Mm-hmm.
Until my younger brother drowned. Then a lot of anxiety kicks in.
Yeah.
You would almost think that wasn't big for the part.
I think one of those things too is like going to talk to somebody in person. Like for me, I avoided support groups like the plague because I didn't want to have to sit around a bunch of other people. Now I help run one in person, like where I'm actually sitting there helping people talk. But that's one of the beauties of the internet is you can find online support groups where you don't even have to show your face, and you can sit there and you can talk to people. Yeah, like
I think that's the thing for a lot of people is actually revealing that they're the ones who are going versus doing it online, and you can pretty much remain 100% anonymous.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of the beauty of the internet, though, is like you can go find people you need to talk to that can make you can give you perspective, make you feel a little better. And you don't have to have that fear of like, are they gonna like look at me differently now, or if I open up to them, kind of thing.
Well, no, because technically they can't look at you.
Exactly. So
one thing to remember, like if you go seek professional help, these people have probably been doing this for years. And they've heard everything.
Yes. Okay.
Way than whatever you're gonna tell them.
My wife graduated at the end of last year, and just since, I mean, she was doing internship for a while before that, but just since like she's had her own client since May, some of the shit she's heard is just like insane. You know, like she's heard stuff from like all over the place in like 5 months. You know, like don't feel like you're going to a mental health therapist like you're gonna present them with a problem that they're like, wow, that's crazy. They're gonna be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
At all.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember these people do it for a living. They're trained to understand. Like, there's not many things you're going to be able to tell them that they probably haven't heard before or aren't prepared to deal with. So don't feel scared. And also, that's kind of one of the nice things about like seeing a therapist. You know, you can see them like once a week or once every couple weeks. You know, and it's just this person you get to go to.
Actually have two types of therapists. You have the ones who actually want to listen to people, and the ones who that like, I want money and here's some pills.
That's the thing. You might have to do some. Do research before you find somebody. I've had the problem before where I've had to.
It doesn't feel comfortable talking with a person.
I've had to move from one person. You need to find somebody that feels right for you. If you don't feel comfortable, don't stay with that person. Go find somebody else. But once you find that person that you feel really helps you, you get to go see them once a week, once every couple weeks, unload for a little bit, get some advice, get some perspective, and then guess what? This person's not judging you. They're not seeing you differently.
It's not like they can go around telling everybody.
Exactly. You know, they have patient-doctor confidentiality kind of stuff, you know, and like that's the beauty of it is like you get to kind of go unload. Do you think that person goes home at the end of the day thinking about you? Probably not. They move on with their life. And when they're in session with you, they're thinking about you. They're focused on you. They do some notes, you know, and like maybe like day or two prior, like when you have an appointment, they might be working on something for you, like to be prepared for you. But that's it, you know, like
it's kind of like with a priest.
Yes, exactly.
If you ask a priest, it's like, man, you must have heard some really crazy stuff in confession.
Right.
They're like, I don't even remember anything.
Yeah.
Only I trust priests even less.
I'm sure, like, my wife, she's been going at it for like 5 months, and I mean, like, she's told me some vague stuff. She doesn't get into detail because of, you know, she doesn't want to betray anybody's confidentiality, and I don't know who these people are anyway. But like, I'm sure if you like, what's the craziest thing? She'd probably be like have to think about it for a while because it's not like something stays with her. She's told me about like treatments she's done, you know, like she gets pretty like inventive. Like I do remember her talking about for like, she said she had a couple, because she's a marriage and family therapist, and she said she had a couple that were like really into like geek culture and like drawing and stuff. So one of the things she said she had them do was like personify their like negative emotion kind of stuff as like I think it might have been like actually personifying like their good stuff into like a superhero, and like they actually like their assignment was to like draw that superhero and like bring it back to the next session. Like that was their homework. One kid like I guess was like really into Pokemon, and like when he kind of like finished their round of sessions, she gave him like a gym badge. That was his like gift from her for like, you know, doing so well kind of thing. She's brought in like card games and stuff to like play with people. Like when a kid won't open up, she'll play a game with them to like, because it always gets them to open up and talk more. And you know, she does stuff like that. But you know, I always say like that's a sign of a good therapist is when they're kind of customizing customizing your experience. If you know, I've been to enough different therapists that can typically recognize like what kind of therapeutic approach they're taking. And the best therapists I've seen is they'll try a couple different, they don't work, and then they start customizing everything. Once they get to know me, they start pulling pieces from here, and they customize my whole session to who I am and what kind of stuff I need to hear. I mean, I had like the best therapist I ever had was when I was in Indy, and he helped pull me from like a really dark place. But I mean, like there was one point like he almost kind of got in my face and like didn't like yell at me, but he was like, he talked very loudly at me and like snapped my attention. And that's what I needed in that moment, because I was like breaking down, and he like kind of got, and he was like, hey, you know, like really into my face and like got really close to me. And, you know, and I was just like, it kind of startled me, but it shook me out of where I was. It made me pay attention to what he was saying. He knew that's what I needed, you know? Like being babied in that point wouldn't have helped me, but like somebody like kind of forcibly, like sternly being like snapping me out of it and like getting very straight with me, you know, that's what I needed. So, you know, when it comes to therapists, you're going to have to find somebody that can do that kind of stuff with you. And it might take a little bit of time. Don't get down on if the first therapist you go to doesn't help you. Definitely go ahead.
No, that's why I like my therapist so much, is that I tend to overthink things logically and think about things from a very logical standpoint. Okay, these are the facts. This is what I'm working with. This is what I need to do here. Da, da, da.
Mm-hmm.
And my therapist is like, oh, right. But how do you feel about this whole situation?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I hadn't thought about that.
Yep.
I completely ignore how my feelings have so much control over what I do, and were holding me back and preventing me from doing things, even though logically I should have been able to.
This is something I want to ask you, Chaos, because this is something my current therapist does with me. And I'm wondering if your therapist has ever done this for you. She'll call me on my bullshit. If she asks me a question and I don't give an honest answer, she'll know it, and she'll be like, Josh, I'm like, yeah, okay.
No.
I'm a terrible liar, though, so I don't even try half the time.
Yeah. she does that to me, though, and I'm just like, yep, you got me. I gotta, like, you know, it'll make me think harder about my answer and, like, kind of really dig into deep into myself and, like, give an honest response.
She'll be like, so last time we talked, you said you were going to call that doctor. Did you call that doctor? No.
Yeah.
Did you look up things about the doctor?
No.
I feel like a 5-year-old who was caught in the cookie jar. Were you in the cookie jar?
No.
Yeah, exactly. That's
something
amazing.
I've also noticed, another misconception I've noticed is, especially somebody who's never seen a therapist before, is some of them might expect they're just going and talking to another friend, getting the same reactions that they would get out of a friend, and then they're completely surprised when with what we see as a therapist just being a therapist, they might see as somebody just acting like they don't care. I'm like, well, no, they're trained not to care specifically. Well, they do, but you know what I mean. They're trained to not give the emotion that you would expect rather than if you were talking to just a regular friend. Because sometimes you need to talk to somebody without all of that emotion, because you're already feeling that emotion.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, too, like, it's one of the things that's nice about talking with a therapist is there is a disconnect there. They don't know, like if you're talking to a friend, it's good to talk to your friends, yes, but your therapist does have this kind of, I don't want to say advantage, but
there's a line you don't cross there.
Yeah, I mean, there's this like ability to be able to be kind of separate from your life and view you from the outside and be able to see things that your friends might not see and like analyze you in a different approach.
Everybody has different viewpoints on things.
Well, what?
Everybody has different viewpoints on things.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you both look at the exact same thing, you both still see something different.
Exactly. And also, if you're talking to just a friend, there's a higher chance they might go and tell somebody else. And with a therapist, you're guaranteed that confidentiality. So there's...
If it's a good friend, you tell them first, then they should not tell as well.
Oh, no, yeah, that's an excellent point. If that person really is your friend, then they won't say anything. I'm just saying with a licensed therapist, they're not allowed to. Yeah.
That's either one thing as well. If a psychiatrist breaks trust and tells someone else, you can basically just go to like, okay, fuck off and go somewhere else. If there's a friend who does that shit, it is far harder.
Well, yeah, because then a lot of other people might know about it by then.
Yeah, and it feels a lot more personal. But despite for the therapist, it's like, oh, it's just a person.
Sorry, I'm typing in the chat, so you guys keep going.
I do need to go soon because
I'm gonna cut the stream in a minute. So
I have a panicky high schooler in my DMs on Discord about to cry because she's gonna fail her English project. Man. Like, you're overthinking it. Calm down. She's a teenage girl, so what are you gonna do?
I do not miss those days.
She's like, I'm gonna fail this English final, and I'm not gonna get into college. And I'm just gonna hold on. You slow down.
Exam stress. I was the only person in the class who didn't had it.
Yeah.
I didn't give a fuck if I made it or
All
not.
right. So yeah, I'm gonna call it at 11:30. So I'm gonna give a couple more minutes. I do real quick from the chat. Jesse, I'm really happy that you made it here. It sounds like you do need someone to talk to. I am going to be trying to make this a weekly thing, hopefully on Friday nights, probably typically at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as opposed to 10. But, you know, it'll change here and there. If you follow me at the Twitter I gave you, that's where I usually post the times. But I also gave you my email. So if you email me, I can give you those times too. And yeah, don't feel worthless. Nobody is worthless. Everybody is important. You know, you might just not feel like it at the time, but you know, everybody's here for a reason. Everybody has something to contribute. Everybody's important in some way. It might not feel like it at the time, but you know, hang in there. Reach out to me. I will do what I can to help you if you need somebody. Definitely. Even if it's like, you know, if you want to personally talk to me and like give me some information about where you're at, I can try to help you find a therapist in your location too. My wife has some contact. You know, reach out to me. So real quick, I want to turn over the stream to my guests. If you guys have any like last minute things you want to add in the next couple minutes, feel free to.
Kind of feels weird just bearing the soul out like this.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you were able to come on, Brandy. It was nice to talk to you. I hope you'll be able to come on some more of these streams too. It was actually nice to get to hear some more from you.
Yeah, work's been pretty crazy these past couple weeks,
Yeah,
which is why I've kind of been AWOL lately.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah. If anybody wants to know what was going on with me, like check out my birthday stream, like just the first like 10-15 minutes. Kind of lay out like why I've been AWOL for a while. There's some pretty like heavy mental health stuff there.
Nobody who tried calling.
Yeah. So, well, I think I'll just, you know, I'll go ahead and just close it now. I think, you know, we'll do this again for sure. I'll keep everybody up to date. Jesse, follow me on Twitter or email me. I'll make sure you know when the next mental health stream is. We're going to be doing some different topics, but all seen on the mental health topic. So if there's anything you'd like me to discuss in the future too, I can focus a specific topic for you too. Just reach out to me, man. You know, I'll do what I can to help you out. So thank you guys so much for showing up. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll keep everybody up to date on when the next stream is. I'm going to shoot for next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
Sounds good.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.